All right, 2 days left in the work week. And then, of course, we got Labor Day weekend coming up. Hope that your weeks are going well. I hope that your plans are all what you want them to be. And I hope that episode 400 was everything that you want it to be as well. As always, thanks for listening. If you guys are digging this show, the best compliment that you could give me is to share it or to go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review or wherever you listen to it. And just share it with people that you think could benefit from the message. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but for those that it is for, you're my people, and I want to do all that I can to provide the right insights to get you living the life that you want to live. And that's actually the whole point of this show. And so today, it's going to be a little bit different than the other morning coffees that I do. So on Thursdays, I tend to do an interview style guest. Well, you guys know the Clarity Academy for me is like the flagship program. I think it's probably the thing that I've done best in my life, that I think that I'm going to be able to impact the world with the most. I'm so proud of that program, and I just really, really love it. So today, for the first time, I'm actually going to air a one-on-one Clarity Academy coaching call, and it's only going to be like 18 minutes or so. But I think me and Bailie, the girl that I am speaking with or coaching, I think that we get into some really cool topics. And so I'm going to air that. I think just by listening to it, you'll be able to, so much of it will resonate with things that you've gone through. And so it'll just be a cool experience for you to understand that. Just for a little bit of context, so the Clarity Academy, next one's actually going to start in mid-October. Registration will open for that soon. The way that works is we have group coaching calls once a week, but we also do a one-on-one program, so you can pay a little bit more and do all of the calls one-on-one. And so that's actually what you're hearing today. The calls are actually an hour. I'm only going to play the first 18 minutes, but I think we really got into something cool here. So hopefully you guys can get a lot out of this as well. And then tomorrow we'll be back with a regular morning coffee message.
I don't want to come off as cocky. And then I was like, well, maybe it's a confidence issue. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, totally. And there's there's an element of humility that's like basically in everything. There has to be an element in humility, like in anything great that we do. And so otherwise, the ego will attribute greatness to itself. And so
Right.
I think the only way that I found so far to truly get rid of that is through gratitude. It's just constant gratitude. And I think it keeps you, as long as you stay super grateful, no matter what great things are happening in your life, it keeps you it keeps you in a good perspective and a good headspace, so that the ego can't start attributing I'm so great and all this is because of me. Because the problem with that is once you do that, even if you are great, if you do that, well, what's great doesn't stay great. Things always are in flux. And so the problem with that is it sort of puts your identity onto a roller coaster.
Right. And I know I have a fear of becoming just basically a big head, someone who just thinks that they're arrogant, just really into themselves and stuff like that. And that's a fear of mine, is I don't want that. I don't want to be, to a place where people can't get on the same level with me and think that I don't understand what they're talking about. And so that's really the last thing that I would want. So I was just kind of freaking out about it yesterday.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's a super hard thing to contend with.
Yeah.
So, okay. So as far as the work, how are you finding the work the last couple of weeks?
Let me go back. I'm a little behind because of the moving and stuff, but I did the week 4, the vision and mission assignment, which was the mission statement and the obituary. And I did them, but I feel like they don't, either they line up and I don't see it, or that they're kind of two different things.
So if you were to live your mission, you don't see how that gets you to your obituary, sort of.
Yeah.
Thing? Okay.
In a way I could, because with my career and stuff, I'm dealing with people all the time. So I could still do it, but I feel like it's not the main focus of why people would come to see me. It's a side note. So it would have to be a really personal thing, I feel for someone to actually have the interaction that at least I put in my obituary.
Totally. It's the most personal thing. It's how you personally live, right?
Yeah.
And so, and so that's okay. But I think to like what you want to, the whole point of the obituary is like out of all of the assignments, like that one is probably the least helpful in actually getting you to where you want to be in any kind of way. But it just helps people conceptualize the end, because we got to know where we're going to know where we start. And so the why is like what pushes you. The mission statement is what pulls you. And then the obituary just sort of helps you frame that end in mind. But for a lot of people, like it's not the most necessary assignment. It's just a lot of people have trouble coming to grips with like, what is the end that they're trying to create? And so it just helps with that essentially.
Okay. And then yesterday, so I did the assignment for yesterday, and then I listened to the audio for week 5. And one of the things that you were talking about was like putting like passion, like putting that into your work and everything. And then you were talking about how if you haven't found it, you probably came up a little short. And I found that super interesting. And I don't really know, like, I guess like, cause I've tried different things, right? I've had a lot of weird odds and ends jobs where I've done different stuff. And this is the first time I've actually been in a career path where I could like see myself like, going long term with it and stuff. But then like, I like it and stuff. I don't know if it's like 100% passion. So I need to, I guess, figure out how to find the passion then, like how to keep pushing to get to that point.
So if you can like think of everything in your life as an iterative process, it will help. It'll help conceptualize this, because you realize that, oh, where I'm at is just my current iteration. It doesn't say anything else about me or what I'm doing or anything. It's just my current iteration, and that's all it is. And so every time you iterate, things get a little bit better. And so another way to think about this, like let's put jobs aside and think about relationships. Like for the most part, when people are in a relationship, even if it starts not going well, but they've been in it for a long time and it was really good at one point, you've probably seen this in yourself or with friends, and they tend to say like, or they tend to not want to leave because they think that it's the best it's ever going to be. The
Right.
reason that's never true is because it's an iterative process. So it always gets better, right? It literally always does. And the only time it doesn't is if you weren't learning while you were iterating, because the reason it gets better is because you learn more about who you are, you learn more about what you want, you learn more about, who you are and what you want, I guess, are the most important things, but what you don't want as well. And so then when you are picking a partner again, you are so much more developed in what you want in a partner. Well, so like a profession is the exact same way. And so I think back to like 3 relationships ago or 3 jobs ago, and they were both good at the time, but I was always iterating, right? And so now where I'm at, perhaps like, and you could do this in the same relationship too. Like people could iterate and change and learn more. And as long as you continue to learn on what you've iterated, it will always get better. And same with your profession. And so like so a good way to think about that is 3 years ago, I was running this company. It was a supplement company, and the podcast was like a extension of the supplement company. It was like a marketing arm for us, and that was it. And then like, as I learned more about myself, I realized like, content creation is actually what I love. I still like fitness and I like health and I like this area, but I'm like being called to do more stuff in the mindset space. And so I'm constantly iterating. I didn't really change jobs. I just made the marketing and the side thing the main thing as I learned more about myself. And now I'm more deeply passionate about what I'm doing. And so,
Okay.
and so the point is too, is that you want to be careful not to get stuck in what you're doing and feel like you can't pivot, because sometimes it's the slight pivot that's the iteration that we need to invoke more passion in our lives.
Gotcha. Okay.
One of the things that you might want to do is consider with your job right now, like because you're asking yourself like, damn, am I it? Is this it? Am I there? So it's like, well, inventory what you're doing right now and what parts of that are you super passionate about? What parts aren't you passionate about? And then if you are considering making some kind of a pivot, let's look at, well, then let's pivot towards passion. Let's outsource what's not passion, or maybe reconceptualize what we're doing so it makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
Because I think you love what you're doing, and maybe there's just parts of it, and maybe that's environment, like who employs you or whatever, that are kind of keeping you from being fully in love with it or fully invested. But inventorying those things will help.
Right. Well, it's hard right now because I haven't actually started my new job yet. Like it doesn't start like next week. And so like, I still don't really know. Like I was supposed to get like a rundown of like what's going to happen for at least my 2 to 3 weeks, like on the 8th. And it's way past the 8th now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, good. Okay. So I'm supposed to be getting it this week sometime. So let's hope. And then, yeah, hopefully just gives me a better idea of what they want me to do and stuff. So
Totally.
that's where I'm like, well, I think I'm doing the same thing, but I mean, this business is so much different than the one I just came from. Like the one I came from was falling apart, and this one's doing really well. So I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
Sure, it's different.
Well, as a disheveled business owner, I feel for that human. But
well, it's a company, so they're all big business, so that's why I don't.
Yeah. So it's like bureaucratic processes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. So, too, though, to think about, like, I've conceptualized this idea recently in my life that I'm realizing sort of takes care of all this, which is if you hold yourself to a standard where you want everything in your life to be as best as it possibly can be, then you kind of constantly are iterating and you don't have to think about it, and things are always as good as they can be. And so I think that's actually a little bit more of a beneficial model to think about. It's like, and I try to take that literally in every single part of my life. So like my room, like I keep it super clean and I try to like organize it, like make it as good as it possibly can be, because that's where you live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same with my job, same with my processes. And if you can carry that attitude into everything you do, then it turns out that, well, everything you do ends up the best it possibly can be. And so you're automatically iterating.
Okay, cool. So then what do you do if, like, I guess it kind of like goes like disarray, like you're not able to like do, like, I guess if like life gets in the way and you're not able to do the things where you think to like your full, like your set standard that you have.
Like
I guess what's your kind of way of like not coping but figuring out then how to make it there?
Like what instead of dealing with abstracts, like what specifically?
So like if for example, like you're at your job and you're trying to get things accomplished, but people keep interrupting you, or like just like you're getting like really frustrated and stuff. Cause like I don't think I can really think about like, okay, so I like to keep where I live also relatively neat, right? I like it because it makes me feel so much better. I don't feel as stressed out.
Totally.
But I can always tell when my life is getting crazy because then my room starts getting messier.
Yeah. It's always an extension of our minds.
Yes. So like, so in a way, it's kind of like it allows me to like to take a step back, realize what I'm getting so agitated about or whatever it may be. But then I always find like the transition then of like going from, okay, I know what's making me mad, to then like kind of getting back on track. That's like always kind of like really hard for me. And I don't know if it's because like when I was living with my dad, like he needed me to do things and my stepmom needed me to do things. Like because it's a family owned farm. So like you need to like put things aside for the good of the farm, because like the animals rely on you, right? Like they can't feed themselves, they can't water themselves or whatever it may be. So like, I think that's where I kind of struggled in the past, because like my dad just puts these responsibilities on me. I'm like, Dad, I can't.
Yeah. So you're saying like when your environment sort of objects to your plans.
Yeah.
So, okay. So a couple of things that are going on there. One, that whole, like, let's put this down for the farm thing got you here, but it's not going to get you there. Like it
right.
worked for you, it served you. It's just not going to serve you going forward, most likely, if you're not trying to be in the farm business, right?
No.
Right. Like that's a different path. You got to pull yourself out of that path, like completely, because that's not going to serve you.
Right.
And you can still be supportive and helpful, but it's just not going to support you. It's not going to.
That's where I have a hard time though, because like my dad is a really good person, and my dad does work, like he works 2 jobs. He's a full-time farmer, and he does another thing on this, like full time. So he works like 80 hours a week or something crazy like that. So like if I have the chance to help him, I want to help him, but sometimes like I can't. And like I don't, and it's hard for, like he's getting much better at it, but it's hard for him to then, because I feel bad because then I put a lot of stress on him then. But like this is his thing, right? He needs to then either like hire help, scale back, but like I guess it's kind of his like push, like he doesn't want to change.
One of the hallmarks of a people pleaser is they allow other people to make their problems their problems.
Yeah.
Right? And so and that's what people will do, because people have a monkey on their back for whatever reason. They look for someone else to put the monkey on that back so it's not as heavy. And so that actually works into today's or this week's sort of lesson plan really well, which is like communicating your vision and communicating your boundaries, right? Because boundaries have to be part of that.
Otherwise, you'll never be able to operate. You'll never be able to operate like safely in what you're trying to do or effectively in what you're trying to do if you don't have any sort of boundaries around it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it sucks, and that's the word.
Yeah, I was listening to the chapter 5 or whatever, and like how you're talking about. I think in there you're talking about taking yourself out of like the son role and like from like your parents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, like I really have to have that conversation, like with my dad and like with people in my life, because there's people, like I said, they put me into a role, and even though I don't agree with that role, I mean, like that's their way of like kind of communicating with me, or like kind of keeping me in their life. So I just need to like, yeah, I got a lot of thinking.
Totally, but have that with yourself first. Like have that, like,
yeah.
One of the prerequisites to pulling yourself out of your role is that you actually know what role you're putting yourself into. And so it has to be really well thought out, because it's going to get challenged by the people that are so used to validating your behavior. And so you have to be thought through. So like in that example, when I'm talking about my parents and their adverse reaction to some of the things that I'm doing with my life now, I feel like I had to meet that with one, grace and compassion, which was like, I totally appreciate everything the best parts of me are you. Like, that's so important that I let you know that, because I'm not disavowing what you do. I want you to know that like you raised an amazing human, but I'm raised and that job's over now. And you have to understand that I'm more thought through on what role I'm playing in this life than most people. And you going through this course are going to be more thought through on your role in life than 95% of other people, probably more.
Yeah.
But just be thought through so that you can, one, obviously meet that person with compassion and grace, because they got to know that you're not just being a dick, essentially. And then at the same time, they have to know, like, you have to give them some kind of assurance. It just helps. Like,
right. And one of the things I've like been working on too, because I have a hard time just putting into words what I'm thinking just in general. And I think part of that is because like I don't say think differently. Like it takes me a longer time to like break down conversations, because I'm really trying to think about everything that they're telling me. And so it takes me a really long time. So then I'm trying to put into words as best I can, especially if it's something that like could maybe be hurtful to somebody else. Like,
yeah.
It like literally, like I think the longest I've taken to like put a conversation together is like 2 days, and just like really trying to pick and choose words that aren't going to hurt them, and words like try to get my point across. Because like I have a bad habit of just like when I'm talking to just like kind of say things like they're going to take that really bad. You can't just say, hey, you're being a shitty friend. You can't just say that. So
yeah. Well, and then so the last part of this, which I know I talked about a little bit in the lecture, is every single environment, every single engagement that you have with someone else is an opportunity to learn this. And so you can be practicing this constantly. And so like I was saying, one of the ways that I do this is when I go to 7-Eleven and I sort of just like pick up on their energy, and then I'm like, I can bring this person up an octave. It's just an interesting experiment to try to do. Sometimes it totally does not work. But, also too, another one is when I go out to eat, like I like sparkling water with lime. Like that is exactly what I want. And I don't want something different, right? But sometimes you order stuff and like they bring out the wrong thing or whatever. And and a lot of times, at least for me in my journey, it's been hard to create boundaries around what it is that I want. But the thing that you have to understand is like, if you don't give yourself what you want, then nobody's going to. So if what you want doesn't come at the extreme cost of other people, then you have to get really comfortable standing on it. And right, as long as it's not hurting somebody else. And so it's not a problem to stand up for who and what you are and what you want. But I think if you do that with every single interaction in your life, sort of like if you make every single part of your life as good as it possibly can be, and you hold that standard for yourself, well, then everything else, even the tougher conversations, are just a natural extension of who you already are in the world.
the love I get.